こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。今回の教材は、サッカー日本代表に関する動画です。サッカー日本代表は、3月のインターナショナルウィークの第2戦で、イングランドと対戦し、1対0で勝利しました。これがイングランド相手の史上初めてとなる歴史的な勝利であり、日本中のサッカーファンが歓喜しているのは間違いないでしょう。今回は、CBS でワールドカップ出場した国を一つずつ取り上げている動画で、今回は、イングランドに勝利した絶好のタイミングで、日本について取り上げています。どちらかというと、日本のフットボールに詳しい日本人から話を聞くというスタイルですが、今の日本に対する期待が高まっていることも実感できます。実際にどのように話しているのか、チェックしてみましょ
う。Japan, fresh off a win against England.
Yeah.
Japan are on a roll. We're going to dive deep into this Asian country that could potentially be the best performing Asian country at this summer's World Cup. They beat Scotland, they beat England. They're more convincing every time you watch them, Mahood.
I think they're the most convincing Asian side at the World Cup, and I think you're starting to see a bit of gap, and we talked about this. The gap you're starting to see between them and one of their biggest competitors in Asia, South Korea, it's starting to widen that much more. I'm much more a believer in Japan than I am South Korea, given what I've seen this window.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. Lahoud, you watched the game against England. Mind you, Japan had several absences, players that they might count on for the World Cup. Similar to the U.S., I think a lot of national teams go through injuries and significant players that are missing. Despite that, though, what did you see in this Japanese team that they were able to beat England?
I saw a team that didn't care whether it was England they were playing. It could have been Argentina. I would have loved to see that game. I mean, they played England off the park. And our very own Jeff Shreves, I was with him watching that game. He looked at me and he was like, oh my gosh, England are second fiddle, second best. There's this fearlessness about this Japanese side. And it comes when you have players who have gone from strength to strength. And the main man here that we see on the wall, Kaoru Matoma, his goal was excellent. Was part of the build-up, spun his defender, got in, gave that Premier League touch in the final third, but he's not alone. You can go to Nakamoto, Keto Nakamoto, who plays for Ramps, and also Kaishu Sano, who plays for Mainz. We get to cover him in the Europa. It was the Conference League he plays for. But there's so many good young players, and the development of the country is really on display. So I really loved what I saw from them.
Ritsu Doan captaining the side, Kamada in the midfield with a little bit more experience, Ayase Ueda who scores goals for fun, and the Eredivisie. All right, speaking of Eredivisie, Netherlands is their first rival out of the gates, June 14th in Dallas. When you look at these teams, where do you think Japan can finish in this group?
Nico, I know a lot of people will think I'm crazy, and I love that you teed it up. I think they can top the group over the Netherlands. This is a Dutch side that, yes, Cody Gakpo does perform for his national team, but this isn't the same Cody Gakpo of old. And the big caveat and the caveat, Memphis Depay does not look good. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the group winners and they can be that dark horse yet again.
If you could surprise the Netherlands in the first game, and then you set yourself up for success. I think Japan are better than Tunisia, and I think they can get a result against Sweden. You're potentially talking about topping the group. Minimum, they have to get out of it, especially if there's third-place teams going through. We want to welcome in Kenta Hagiwara, by the way. He's co-host of the Asian Football Show, an expert of Japanese football, to give us a little bit more insight into this. Kenta, welcome to Morning Footy.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Kenta, so talk to me about Japan and the expectations from this team. The round of 16 has been a finish line oftentimes for Japan. Can they finally get over this curse of the round of 16?
Yeah, that's obviously the hope, right? They've been to the round of 16 four times before this, including the first time in 2002 when they hosted the World Cup, and they've never been able to kind of move on past that. You look at the last two World Cups in 2018, you were up 2-0 against Belgium, and in the span of 20 minutes, you kind of concede 3 goals. And against Croatia, you're tied 1-1. You're up for a bit at halftime, and you're just unable to win. And you take it to pens and lose on pens. And there's just a lack of experience with some of the younger players there in that penalty shootout, and that it costs the team. But I would imagine this time around, the expectation isn't just making it out of the group stage. You look at 2022 and the outlook then, it was a group with Germany, it was a group with Spain, and the outlook was a little less of, can we win a knockout stage match? It was more of, can we get out of this group? They win against both European sides, and they make it out of the group stage as the winners of that group, and they just struggled against Croatia at times in that match. Again, in Group F, I think the outlook is a little higher, especially with the recent results. You go back to the October window in 2025, they beat Brazil after going down 2-0 at home and won 3-2. And then, of course, the Wembley result yesterday when they win 1-0 against England, a team that hardly ever loses and also hardly ever gets shut out at home in Wembley. So I think the outlook is very good. But obviously, we'll see how the group stage ends up playing out.
Kenta, it's really good to have you on and just be talking about a team that I know that we're big fans of with the Japanese national team. So with this win, Japan becomes the first Asian team to beat England at Wembley. But you guys also have an amazing track record against European teams. I mean, you're unbeaten, I think, maybe in your last 8, 9, you could probably even say 10 matches against European opposition. So when you look at this Japanese national team going into the World Cup, for our viewers and, for all of us, what would you say are the biggest strengths of this Japanese side?
It's the strength is kind of it's what the identity of Japanese football as a whole. It's tactical intelligence. It's the high pressing, the quick transitional play, but also we saw in yesterday's game the mid block between Kaishu Sano and Daichi Kamada was incredibly effective. Japan played compact defensively, and that mid block I thought played incredibly well. It was aggressive. It caused all sorts of problems for England, who played with, I guess, 2 dueling 10s instead of having a real 9 in there because of Harry Kane's late injury and knock that he suffered before the match. I think a big presence in the box with the number 9 kind of changes how this match plays out, just because Japan aren't necessarily the biggest team in terms of size, and I think that can be a problem at times, especially on set pieces. But generally speaking, they're just such a disciplined team. I feel like that adjective gets thrown around with Japan time and time again in terms of what they do. It's just all that identity that has been part of the Japan way of playing from a coaching standpoint in terms of how the game is coached at the club level and the national team level and the youth level across the board, and also how the players play. And it's that identity that really helps bring consistent performances against teams that are below them in FIFA rankings, but also the top European teams that they've been able to hold their own against.
Kenta, we've been talking about this round of 16 benchmark, right? And the irony now is that if Japan wins that knockout stage game, the first one, it's only to get to the round of 16. So there's an extra layer here. When you consider all of this pressure on Japan to deliver, how do you think this team deals with that pressure?
Well, I think they deal with it well. You look at even just yesterday's match against England. I think the expectation was that you get a result. You put your best team, best 11 that possible, barring the injuries, against an England side that had a lot of players kind of withdrawing, going back to their club for one reason or another, and also just suffering injuries, obviously with Harry Kane that we previously mentioned. So the expectation was to be able to put up a fight, and they did. So it's ultimately, I don't think they've suffered from pressure at the tournaments. At times it's been difficult. You look at the Asian Cup in 2023, they suffered against Iran and against Iraq. And so hopefully, right, come this time in the knockout stage, they're able to kind of get that one win, and hopefully that one win, the first win in the knockout stage of a World Cup, can get that curse out of the way. I know it's not the round of 16, but can help propel them into a deep run.
It's amazing when you look at the profile of some of the Japanese players. It just seems, Nico, that they're just raising the bar, right? You have a player in Daichi Kamada who's a European champion, won the Europa League, and a FA Cup champion. Players playing in, the Premier League. Players playing in Europe's top 5 leagues. So, Kenta, when you look at this group overall, are we seeing a potential golden generation in Japanese football?
I think so, absolutely. And, the early 2000s, the JFA, the federation, came out with this 50-year plan. And they spoke about kind of the significance of getting players to Europe and developing talent over there. So you're seeing a lot of young Japanese players make the move over to Europe, and it's been effective, right? You're seeing, obviously, the names that are on the board here, but there's so many players in the Premier League and just in general the European top 5 leagues that you wouldn't have necessarily had the same quantity maybe 10 years ago in the previous generation of Keisuke Honda and Shinji Kagawa and Shinji Okazaki. When the depth is the difference here, because now we're seeing some of these players be hurt. Like Takikubo wasn't available this window, and you still have other players that are playing high-level European football be able to step up in the place and deliver. So it's definitely a great sign.
Kenta, let's talk about belief, because I can't help but compare the Japanese situation to the U.S. situation. Japan is a team that, to me, I'm convinced can punch above their weight. Whereas I see the U.S. and there haven't been results that have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight. How come there is so much belief in Japan to have the best World Cup result that they've ever had?
Well, partly it has to be what they did in 2022. It's a different subject if they weren't able to beat Germany and they weren't able to beat Spain. But the results that they got there, it's easy to look at those and say, well, why not do it again? And the run of form against again very recently here, the aforementioned result against Brazil in October was a really important one. You go down to and you hadn't beaten Brazil before, and to be able to storm back and win 3 at home was a really important win. And then you combine that with the Wembley result when you're not on home soil, which obviously the World Cup won't be in Japan. So you're playing in neutral sites. It's important to be able to win, not just at home. And I think that those 2 results are just indicative of the fact that this Japanese national team can get results against teams that are maybe above them in terms of quality of individual talent because of how disciplined they are as a team and how well coached they are.
Samurai Blues World Cup journey kicks off June 14th against the Netherlands in Dallas, and it's bound to be a fun one. Kenta, thank you very much. Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount Plus.
次は解説です。今回はスポーツの話題で使えるような表現もいくつかありましたので、本日の解説をチェックしてみましょ
う。Japan are on a roll.
オナロールは勢いに乗っている、連続してうまくいっているという意味の表現です。スポーツでは連勝していたり、内容の良い試合が続いていたりする時によく使われます。単に一回うまくいっただけでなく、良い流れが続いているニュアンスがあります。例えばジャパンアイオナロールなら、日本は今かなり好調だという意味になります。日常会話でも勉強や仕事が順調な時に使えます。とても自然で使いやすい表現なので、ぜひ覚えておきたいです。波に乗っていると考えると分かりやすいです。
Japan are on a roll. Japan are on a roll.
England are second fiddle, second best.
セカンドフィデルは2番手や脇役という意味のイディオムです。特にプレイセカンドフィデル等で何かの影に隠れる、何かの引き立て役になるという意味になります。もともとはオーケストラの第2バイオリンから来た表現です。主役ではなくサポート役に回るイメージがあります。スポーツでは相手に主導権を握られていたり、存在感で負けていたりするときに使えます。例えば、イングランドはセカンドフィデルなら、イングランドは主役ではなかったという感じです。試合の力関係を印象的に表せる便利な表現です。
England are second fiddle, second best. England are second fiddle, second best. And I love that you teed it up.
Tee up はもともとゴルフから来た表現で、ボールを打ちやすい位置に置くという意味があります。そこから会話では、相手が話しやすいように流れをパるという意味で使われます。特にインタビューやスポーツ番組でよく使われる表現です。いい質問をしたり、話題をうまく振った時に使われます。今え振りをした、話しやすくしてくれたというニュアンスになります。ネイティブはリアクションとしてもよく使います。自然な会話を目指すなら、ぜひ覚えたい表現です。
And I love that you teed it up. And I love that you teed it up.
That have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight.
Conducive は何かを促す、何かにつながる、なんなんしやすくするという意味の単語です。 よくbe conducive toの形で使われます。何かを直接生み出すというより、その結果が起こりやすい環境を作るニュアンスがあります。例えば、conducive to successなら、成功につながるという意味です。スポーツでは、結果や状況が自信や好調さを後押しするときにも使えます。少しかための言葉ですが、解説英語ではとても便利です。追い風になる、好条件を作ると考えると覚えやすいです。punch above one's weight は、実力や規模以上の成果を出すという意味のイディオムです。もともとはボクシングの階級から来た表現で、本来より上の階級の相手を通用するというイメージがあります。スポーツでは、戦力的には劣っていても、格上相手に善戦したり、結果を出したりするときによく使われます。タンダラスに勝つという意味ではなく、期待値を上回る戦いを見せるニュアンスがあります。国やクラブ、チームについて語るときによく使われます。ニュースや解説でもよく出るので、覚えておくととても便利です。身の丈以上の戦いをすると覚えると分かりやすいです。
That have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight. That have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight. That have been conducive to the U.S. punching above its weight against the Netherlands in Dallas, and it's bound to be a fun one.
bound to はきっと何々するはずだという意味の定番表現です。未来のことについてかなり高い確率でそうなるときに使います。It's bound to happen はそれは起こるに決まっているという意味です。会話では very likely と似ていますが、bound to の方が少し強い言い方です。スポーツでは得点やミス、試合展開を予想するときによく使われます。ネイティブが日常会話でもよく使うので、とても実用的です。そうなる流れができているとイメージすると覚えやすいです。
Against the Netherlands in Dallas, and it's bound to be a fun one. Against the Netherlands in Dallas, and it's bound to be a fun one.
いかがでしたか？イングランドは日本に負けたことだけでなく、直近の対戦から数日前のウルグアイ戦で 1-1 の引き分け、去年の6月に対戦したセネガル戦では3対1で敗戦し、それ以外には2024年10月のギリシャ戦に遡るまで11試合の勝利もありますが、特にセネガル、ウルグアイ、日本という FIFA ランクでもトップ20以上の国に対する戦績が悪いことが懸念点の一つに挙げられています。怪我人やハリー・ケインの不在など言い訳もありますが、それでも日本にとっては勝てるべくして勝ったような上位ランカーを切り続けている中の一つに過ぎないようにも見えてくることも、日本の期待がさらに高まっている証拠でしょう。もう少しイングランド人のイングランドチームに対する反応なども取り扱っていきたいと思いますので、興味がある方だけお楽しみください。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。